Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Dan Wickline Show. Hope you're all having a good day. It's the hump day, getting through this week, getting towards the weekend, which is always better. Always better when you get to the weekend, huh? All right, guys, we today are going to talk about that awesome trailer that dropped on Monday for Moon Knight. But before we do, got a little business to take care of. Remind you guys that this is around the 1 year anniversary for the experience. We're doing the Experience Expo, which are extra shows all week, interviews and stuff. There's an interview tonight with Sean McMahon, and that's going to come on about 9 p.m. We have Wednesday Warriors tonight, and of course we have Comic Collectibles with Rex and John coming up right after the show. So stick around. Just put it on the experience and leave it here. We got all this great stuff going on for you. Also, I want to remind you guys that I have a Kickstarter going on right now for a book called Karma. It's an erotic romantic graphic novel about a straight-laced photographer being pulled into the crazy, chaotic world of an up-and-coming supermodel. And we have beautiful interior art by Carlos Renault. We have cover art by Mirka Andolfo there. We also have Stepan Sejic and Michael Di Pascal. So there's some beautiful covers. And the Di Pascal cover also has a naughty variant, if that's your thing. So we have some great options on there. You can get all 4 trades at once for a good price. You can get each cover or individual cover. You can get a digital version. And we have stretch goals going on. We've already reached 2 of them. We're working our way to the 3rd one. We have over 750 backers so far. It's going great. We got 15 days left, but we really want to push it because the better it does, the better chance it's going to be a second Karma story and on down the line. So take a look. It might be something you're interested, might be something you want to get as a gift for somebody. So take a look at Karma. While we're talking, I'm hoping JD can grab the link for me and put it in the chat. And we'll just go from there. But I probably should have given him the link beforehand. I'm real bad that way.
Actually, I will get that in a few moments. I was actually setting up the Moon Knight trailer for you.
Okay. I just put the link in private to make it easier. Because I don't get to post in the comments section. All right. So we are going to get to Moon Knight. But before we show the trailer or talk anything else about it, I'm going to actually do a lot of stuff before we get to the trailer. But there we go. There's the link. Thank you very much, JD. We need to start off with this tragic news involving Moon Knight. French actor Gaspard Ulliel has passed away. He's died. He was in a skiing accident on the French Alps yesterday. The 37-year-old actor is said to have collided into another skier at a crossing point, and he suffered a serious brain injury. He was transported by helicopter to a hospital in Grenoble, where he'd ended up passing. Now, Ulliel was one of France's best-known actors, having started at the age of 12. So he's got a 20 or 25-year career, even though he was only 37. He made his U.S. debut in Hannibal Rising in 2007 and was recently, of course, cast in the Moon Knight series. While we don't know exactly what role he has, a lot of the speculation has him playing Anton Mogart, also known as the Midnight Man. Disney released a statement about his passing. They said, "We are deeply saddened to learn of the tragic passing of our friend and colleague, Gaspard Ulliel. Our thoughts are with his family and friends during this time." Now, we didn't see Ulliel in any of the trailers. That was in the trailer that was released on Monday or the teaser we had before that. But there's a good chance that what we've seen so far for the trailer is probably only from the first and second episodes. So expect a lot more to it, but it's going to be kind of sad going into this series, knowing that this is likely one of his final performances. So, yeah, that it just sucks. Hello, Mark. Through the shock of those Power Ranger bikes on Boba Fett. Yeah, the Space Vespas really got me too. But I watched last night's episode, which we will talk about tomorrow. And mostly feeling better about the episode. So, all right, but we're going to stick to Moon Knight today. I'm going to give you a little background because some of you may not know that much about Moon Knight. So let me give you the quick nickel tour. Now, Moon Knight first appeared in the comics in August of 1975 in the pages of Werewolf by Night number 32. Now, this was written by Doug Mensch and drawn by Don Perlin. Now, the character was a throwaway antagonist for the lead character of Jack Russell. Yes, Marvel named their werewolf character the same name as a popular brand of terrier. It was the 70s, after all. Now, in the story, Moon Knight is hired by a group called the Committee to capture Russell, and he was given a moon-inspired costume to go with the whole iconography of werewolves, I guess. Now, Moon Knight eventually realized that Russell is a victim in all this and decides to help him. Now, his 2-issue appearance here, along with popping up in issue 37 as a demonic version of himself in a vision, they were enough to inspire editors Marv Wolfman and Len Wein to let Munch and Perlin do a 2-part solo adventure for him in Marvel Spotlight 28 and 29. Now that, and then he also appeared in Spectacular Spider-Man 22 and 23, where he was more, and both of those stories kind of recast him more as a hero. So, and even the thing about him working for the committee got kind of retconned to him working for them as undercover so he could find out what they were doing. But he would eventually pop up in more issues like Marvel 2-in-1 52, and even join the Defenders in the Defenders 47 through 51. But eventually Marvel kind of went, okay, this guy, he's getting popular. People are really liking him. Let's put him in the Hulk magazine because we need a backup story. So originally they got Munch and Perlin to do issues 11 and 12 backup story in the Hulk magazine. And then Jim Shooter, who had gotten a call from Neil Adams about this young artist that they thought might be good for Marvel, decided to turn the art reins of Moon Knight over to this kid with this really long last name, Bill Sienkiewicz. JD says, fun fact, someone on eBay is trying to sell Werewolf by Night 32 for $35,000. Good luck to them. Good luck to them. So yeah, Bill Sienkiewicz came in, took over on the Hulk magazine number 13. He did 13 through 15, 17, and 18, and 20. All had him in it. And then they also did a solo black and white story in Marvel Preview number 20. Now, this really started kind of pushing things. And as the character kept getting more and more popular, by 1980, they decided to give him his own series. Now, again, and they went to Mensch and Sienkiewicz at that point to do it. Now, the problem is that while it was a heavy noir series and stuff, it also kind of cemented this. And I think it's because Sienkiewicz's early work was very similar to Neil Adams. So there was a lot of connection to Batman, The Dark Knight, and Moon Knight. But it's a very erroneous connection. A lot of people will say, well, Moon Knight is Marvel's Batman. No, he's not. If anything, Marvel's Batman is Iron Man. If you think about it, rich kid, parents killed, turns to using his money to build himself a costume to take on the bad guys. It's kind of Iron Man. and it's Batman. So, but Moon Knight is a different character out there. He's more inspired by another character, and I will get to him in just a minute. But I want to keep going through the basic background on Moon Knight. Now, well, throughout his run to that point, Moon Knight had many aliases. His true identity of mercenary Mark Spector, the rich, affluent, upper-class guy, Stephen Grant, and his streetwise cabbie, Jake Lockley, that he used to get all the dirt that he needed. Now, he was also assisted by a mercenary named Frenchie, who flew the copter, the moon copter, another Batman thing, and was often accompanied by his girlfriend, Marlene, who was actually part of his origin story. The short version of his origin is he was working for a mercenary named Bushman in Egypt, and Bushman decided to kill this scientist and his daughter, and Spectre steps in to stop it, saves Marlene, but gets killed in the process. He dies at the foot of the statue of Khonshu, the Egyptian god of the moon, and Khonshu resurrects Spectre into being his own avatar on Earth. So from that point forward, Spectre runs with the whole moon theme. Now, it wasn't until 1985 when a new Moon Knight miniseries was launched called Fist of Khonshu. And they added a bunch of Egyptian iconography to him. I think his moon symbol got changed to an ankh on his chest. His wristbands became scarab-like. So they were trying to go with that theme. But also, this was the first time that the idea of dissociative identity disorder came into play. Now, that used to be called multiple personality syndrome, but it's not quite the same thing. But so dissociative identity disorder. And this was written by Alan Zelenitz and drawn by Chris Warner. And each of Moon Knight's aliases, they kind of became their own individual personality. So instead of it being, oh, he just dressed up as this guy and this guy, but he's always Mark Spector, it started getting to be he was Stephen Grant when he was Stephen Grant, and he was actually Jake Lockley when he was out in the cab, and the personas switched. Now, the book itself misidentifies the symptoms as schizophrenic, which, but it's the dissociative personality disorder, and this is a huge change for the character. Now, again, they added a bunch more Egyptian stuff, and the character, it was an interesting series because it really kind of took the character a little more heroic, too, a little less noir. Now, he would pop around in a bunch of other places again. He would end up working with the West Coast Avengers for a while. He'd show up in a lot of crossovers, but Marvel kept giving him his own title. One point it was called Mark Spector Moon Knight, which ran for quite some time. There was Vengeance of the Moon Knight. And then there has been 9 different volumes of a book just called Moon Knight. So from the Munch Sienkiewicz version to the current version by Jed MacKay and Alessandro Cappuccio, which is going on right now, there has been Moon Knight on and off for years since 1975. There's even an anthology series coming out in April called Moon Knight Black, White, and Blood. And it's kind of what they've been doing a lot lately, where they take a character and they just do black and white, but with one color splash that makes sense for the character. Well, here they're doing blood, and it's going to have various artists taking their turn at the character. Now, what comment did I miss? Psychology field is up in the air about whether or not DID actually exists. Yeah. Yep. Lisa just got her degree in psychology, and anytime I bring up this stuff, she schools me. She also goes over my my videos, my Psychology of Villainy Riddler and Psychology of Villainy Lex Luthor that I did over on my page. So there's some actual background to that. There's some expertise in those. But all right, let's keep going with Moon Knight. Now, Before we talk about the trailer, I really do need to address the Moon Knight Batman comparison. Now, you can do a superficial look and see rich guy has a servant-like assistant, goes out at night in a costume, beats up bad guys, has a copter shaped like a symbol. Yeah, you can totally see the comparison there. But when you start looking at the character and not just the superficial level, you realize that he's not Batman. Batman is born from tragedy. He watches his parents be murdered. He travels the world learning to be the best fighter, the best detective, and just becomes this ultimate weapon, and then unleashes it to save his city. He's all about Gotham. Now, Moon Knight, Mark Spector was a mercenary in a foreign land who turned on his boss and died for it, and then was resurrected by an Egyptian god. He then returns to the U.S., takes on a bunch of fake identities, including that of the rich, affluent Stephen Grant, but also takes on the cabbie Jake Lockley for information. And it's just it's a whole different thing. But the thing is, it's not that unique either. So where it might have been a Batman knockoff when he first appeared in Werewolf by Night, they were just kind of having fun with it. By the time they actually sat down and gave him an origin story and a background, he's much more like the Shadow. I mean, if you don't know the Shadow character from pulp collections and stuff like that, the Shadow is a guy named Ken Allard, who was a mercenary, who ends up learning the mystical arts and stuff after he crash lands. He comes back to the U.S. He takes over the role of a rich, affluent man named Lamont Cranston. He has a bunch of other aliases he uses. He has a driver similar to the way Mark has Frenchie. He has a cabbie named Shrevey. He has Marlene, where Mark has Marlene. The Shadow has Margot Lane. The parallels between Moon Knight and Shadow are just so much stronger than the parallels between Moon Knight and Batman. I mean, there's a certain psychosis to the Shadow. The fact that, he really does become this completely different persona when he puts on the scarf and the hat. And it's just something to think about. So for all those people out there going, oh, Moon Knight is just Marvel's Batman. Nope, he's Marvel's the Shadow. Still not a great thing, but JD says, I only know the Shadow from the Alec Baldwin film, which may not be a great image. Actually, they did a really good job with the Alec Baldwin Shadow. They brought in a lot of the aspects and stuff, though a very big Tibetan connection in the Shadow movie. And I believe, and I have to double check this, I believe there's more of a South American connection to the pulp character, to the actual character. So, but other than that, the movie is brilliant. Peter Boyle as Shrevey, Penelope Ann Miller as Margot Lane. I mean, it's just, I love that movie. You also get Ian McKellen and Jonathan Winters and Tim Curry. Now, they've adapted a few of the classic pulp characters, and there's a couple really good takes. Baldwin's The Shadow, Billy Zane's The Phantom. Great. What Seth Rogen did to the Green Hornet, I will never see another Seth Rogen movie. That was so poorly done. So much of travesty of what the character is. So, but I definitely, there was 3 movies they did near each other. The Shadow, The Phantom, and The Rocketeer are kind of that era of comic characters, and all of them were absolutely awesome. Now, let's, you know what? Let's do something a little different here. We're a little early, but let's go ahead and take a break. And then when we come back, we'll run the trailer and then we'll get deep into the trailer itself. So stick around. We'll be right back.
They say it, and it's true, that everything is getting faster. You're not getting any younger, and time is the single resource that you can never get back or get any more of. So why walk into your local comic shop blind when you can go in laser focused on the best books on the shelf?
Hi everybody, and welcome to Minute to Skim It. Yeah!
Spend 1 hour with Miss Jen and Bean, and they'll give you rapid-fire reviews of all the new comics hitting stores. Spend less time shopping and more time reading.
This is Provenance of Secrets.
This is The Heathens. I read Wolverine number 17.
Minute to Skim It, every Tuesday at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, on The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales.
There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit comicshoplocator.com to find a store near you.
All right, we are back and we are talking about Moon Knight. We're going to watch the trailer in just a moment. But again, let me remind you that coming up right after the show today is Comic Collectibles with Rex and John. And they've got a pretty impressive lineup of books that they're going to be offering up. I know that, let's see, I've got actually some of them right here. They've got an Alex Ross signed copy of Batman 66 meets Green Hornet #2. They've got a Scott Snyder's signed Justice League No Justice #1. Amazing Spider-Man #600 signed by John Romita Jr. An Absolute Carnage #1. The Stanley Art Germ variant signed by Donnie Cates. The Vampirella bust does look really good. And then they've got a bunch of signed and remarked covers by Ken Hazer, including a Cable one, a Hulk, a Thor, and a Captain Marvel. So if you're looking for some good books, stick around for Comic Collectibles with Rex and John.
Rex and John are actually trying to coin a new term because remarks are kind of they've they're just like writing a little skull on the cover.
Yeah,
and they've been calling what Ken Hazer does in the blank variant still a commissioned cover art or a CCA because to differentiate it.
Okay. Commissioned cover art. I like that. So, all right, before we jump into the trailer, let's answer Adrian's question. It says, hey guys, do you think they might also introduce Jack Russell in the series? If you would have asked me that before the trailer, I would have said, no, we're going to meet Jack Russell in we're going to meet Werewolf by Night in a Halloween special that's due out this Halloween. So they would probably save it for that. But there is a scene in the trailer, and you guys can keep your eyes out for it, where Moon Knight is in a bathroom beating the crap out of something on the floor. When you look at what it is, though, it doesn't look human. And the two things I think it could be is either a werewolf or a jackal. And I'll get into this when I talk about the trailer, but a jackal makes a lot of sense because of the Egyptian iconography. Anubis is the jackal-headed god, and they've talked about a god of the war, a war of the gods. So that's a possibility. But also, it would be interesting for them to introduce Jack Russell as the Werewolf by Night. Now, I don't know if the Werewolf by Night special we're supposed to get in October is going to be Jack Russell, or there's a newer character. And the reason I think it might be the newer character who's the current Werewolf by Night is because the main actor cast as in Werewolf by Night is his name's going to escape me. Let me check that real quick. He the lead guy from Mozart in the Jungle. Gael Garcia Bernal has been cast in Werewolf by Night as the main werewolf. Now, the fact that he is Hispanic, I don't think he would go by the name Jack Russell, and that there is a Hispanic werewolf now. So, but they might introduce Jack Russell here and then have him show up in Werewolf by Night and end up converting the new guy. Don't know. Still have to see how that goes. But so yeah, I think it's possible. I think we might get werewolves in here. It might just be a jackal. It's hard to say. But let's take a look at the trailer, and then we'll talk about it. You can see for yourself.
Hello, and welcome to Staying Awake.
I have a sleeping disorder. I can't tell the difference between my waking life and dreams.
Hello, and welcome to Staying
I think I'm losing it.
Real catch you are. You're bloody useless. Stevie.
Stephen. I can't tell the difference between life and dreams.
Thank you.
Lost the contact lens.
Hope you find it.
Thanks. Hold the phone. Now hold the phone. Yeah.
Oh my God, you're alive. What's wrong with you, Mark?
Why did you call me Mark? It must be very difficult. A voice in your head. Shut up! There's chaos in you. Embrace the chaos.
Yeah, so the thing he's beating the crap out of in the bathroom didn't look human, did it? So that's all right. Let's get into breaking down this trailer. Now, ask your questions as we go if you like. But I've got a write-up trying to cover as much as I can, but I'll be happy to answer any questions as we go. Now, it's obvious that they're going a different way from the comics, and they plan to do a deep dive deeply into the psychology of it. Is Spectre English? That accent was not great. I think he's affecting that actor. That's the Stephen Grant character, and I have a feeling that when he is Mark Spector, he will have his normal speaking voice. They're kind of pitching this whole thing as it being Stephen Grant up front, but I have a feeling that it's going to be more Mark Spector. We're just going to be brought in through the Stephen Grant character. That's why he's using the affected accent. It's not a good accent. It's somewhere between it's Cockney-ish without the dropping of the letters. It's a very strange accent. It's almost Dickensian. It almost sounds like, Oliver Twist. Can I have some more, please? So yeah, it's not a very good accent, but I have a feeling that we're only going to get that accent with the Stephen Grant character. Because otherwise, why would you have Oscar Isaac, who is not English, doing that accent when Mark Spector's never been English? So that's just my thought on that. So we start off, we can see that they're going to do a deep dive into the psychology of Moon Knight. And we see actor Oscar Isaac playing Stephen Grant as someone who has a lot of issues with sleep and seeing things. Did all the way Isaac even made fun of his accent in his reaction trailer? Yeah, he did. They did a reaction trailer or a video with Isaac and Ethan Hawke reacting to the video, and he does make fun of his own accent in it. Yeah, it is very much Oliver Twist. So, like I said, I have a feeling we won't have to deal with that too much. But now, in the comics, of course, Grant is this really rich guy, and he's kind of the Bruce Wayne persona, or the Lamont Cranston persona. But here, Grant is this rather quiet, mousy guy who works at the gift shop at the National Museum, and he's struggling with telling the difference between his dreams and reality, in his waking moments. And it looks like he's actually trying to stay awake to avoid going into those dreams. He does things to try to keep him from getting out of the house or the apartment. He even padlocks himself to the bed. We see him tripping over as he tries to run past the cable. So you can see that he's not really dealing with this very well. And most of the scenes are about that. I have a feeling that the majority of the trailer is going to come out of episode 1 and maybe some of episode 2. So I think episode 1 will all be set up, and we'll really get to Mark Spector by episode, the end of episode 1, and then we'll start seeing him get more into it and stuff. But yeah, and then it's very, very much, I think that the one persona doesn't know what the other one's doing type of thing. At least that's how I think it looks. Now, we only see him as Stephen Grant, but we get the hints. Well, we also see him as Moon Knight, but we get the hint of Mark Spector when he hears that ringing phone and he breaks into this wall, it looks like, and he finds this old style flip phone. Now, it's interesting that it's this old flip phone because it could be from a long time ago, but also a mercenary like Mark Spector wouldn't carry an iPhone or anything like that because they can all be tracked, where those old flip phones didn't have a GPS system on them. So I could see him using that so he couldn't be found by it. So it might show that he's been stuck in the Stephen Grant persona for a while, or it might be that the phone's an older phone for a different reason. Adrian noticed that he put a bunch of sand to make sure he can keep track of the fact of his comings and goings. I found that his shape of the crescent was fitting. Nice. I didn't even think about the crescent shape, but yeah, good catch on that. Yeah, he's doing all these things because I think he's afraid he's sleepwalking, and he's trying to stop himself, and he's trying to figure out if he's really doing it or if he's really leaving the apartment. That's why he put the tape on the door. But if it is another persona, Mark Spector could probably pick the lock, open the door, remove the tape, put it back when he gets back. So it's kind of an interesting setup. Now, so he gets this phone, he hears this phone, and when he answers it, and we see the little picture of an alligator. And now, an alligator, of course, is a big part of Egyptian iconography as well. So JD says, Kid Cootie's Day and Night was such a great choice for the music. I had never heard that song before, but yeah, it is haunting in its sound, and it really does fit the mood they're going for very well. So, but he flips open the phone and he talks to the person, and the person on the other end is named Layla, according to the subtitles. By the way, you should always watch these things with subtitles on, because they give the people's names, and sometimes that's the only hint you're going to get. So Layla's the one that calls. She has got, she says, "Oh my God, you're alive. What is wrong with you, Mark?" And he's like, "Why'd you call me Mark?" Yeah, that is such a bad accent. I can't even copy it properly. So that's the first sign that we get Mark Spector. And again, it just really feels like we're only going to get stuff. The trailer only is the first episode, because I have a feeling we're going to just go off in 90 directions from there. Channel your inner Dick Van Dyke. I thought about that too. It's definitely his horrible chimney sweep accent from Mary Poppins. That's a that's what the other thing I was thinking about. Either that or Dickensian, which I always thought tied into Mary Poppins as well. Now, he keeps waking up in these situations that his other personalities have put him in. And now we see him as Moon Knight in some clips, and also he finds that flip phone. So it looks like we're getting at least 3 of his 4 personalities. Now, will we get Lockley? Don't know. And I know a lot of people will point out that there is actually another personality more recently created of Mr. Knight, where he's dressed in a suit with just a white mask over. I don't know if they're going to even delve into that at this point. I think just establishing the base personas will be tough enough. So I think Mr. Knight may not make an appearance here, but that's just speculation. Now we also see a physical representation of Khonshu in the hallway, and it is creepy as hell, and it's straight out of the comics with this big bird head. He's carrying the crescent-shaped staff, and he looks amazing, and it's just a side glimpse that we get. 6 if you count Khonshu and leave out Mr. Knight. Oh, so far 4 if you count Khonshu. I always looked at Moon Knight as his own personality, Lockley, Grant, and then Spectre. So, yeah, they did a really nice job embracing the Egyptian aspect, kind of turning him into a mummy type character with the way the bandages go on. I think that is a striking visual, nothing to do with the character from the comics, but I love it. I think that is absolutely awesome. And I do like how the costume does feel like mummification, So that's a real nice touch. And yeah, the 2 different times they show him transforming, it just looks so cool. All right. We also meet, so Layla we don't know yet, but we also meet Ethan Hawke's character. Now, if you read it with the subtitles on, they tell you that the character's name is Arthur Harrow. Now, this is a deep cut villain that appeared in 1 issue of Moon Knight, Volume 2, Number 2, and that was it. He was a scientist who specialized in pain theory, and he was secretly continuing the Auschwitz experiments. Now, a reporter got in there, and she found out what was going on and was trying to expose him. She got in trouble, because, again, the guy just keeps doing the Nazi experiments. Is not right. Well, this is also a tie-in to the character of Mark Spector is Jewish, and I think his father was a rabbi. So there's a lot of references to the important things that are important to the Jewish culture, and also the enemies tended to be Nazis and stuff like that in the early days. So the fact that Harrow was extending these Nazi experiments that were done in the concentration camps makes a lot of sense for this character, for going up against Moon Knight. Now, he was backed up by a group called Omnium, and Moon Knight became involved because he was looking for the girl, stuff like that. And they ended up, Moon Knight ends up getting this vision from the priests of Khonshu that leads him to Mexico to stop the Doctor specifically. While Harrow's experiments are destroyed, he is able to escape by the help of Omnium, and they promise that, oh, you'll be able to continue your experiments. We'll just move you to Paraguay. Now, what's Adrian say? The wrappings are probably to symbolize his resurrection, and the villain is probably not what we think it is, like always. Yep, that's just what I'm going to get to. Now, the character doesn't seem to be Arthur Harrow doesn't really seem to be a very good match to what we're seeing in the trailer. But there's another character that makes more sense, a character whose name has never been revealed in the comics. So I could see them going, okay, we're going to borrow this character's name and give it to this guy just so he has a real name. That is what I think they're doing. And the character I think that they're going to use is Patient 86, who later on becomes known as the Sun King. Now, Patient 86 suffers from a bipolar disorder. His doctor, a guy named Dr. Emmett, who has also worked with Mark Spector in the past, treated Mark Spector, he sees parallels between the cases. He thinks that what he learned with Spector could help Patient 86. So he introduces him to Egyptian mythology, specifically the god Amun-Ra. Now, Amun-Ra is the sun god. Amun-Ra is also the supposed father of Khonshu, the god of the moon. So there is this familiar connection between Ra and Khonshu. Now, Patient 86, though, becomes so obsessed with Ra that he eventually attacks a nurse and then wraps himself in flames, which reveals that he's actually become the avatar for Amun-Ra. So he's become Ra's version of Moon Knight. Now, this is when he starts using the name of the Sun King, and he sets out to destroy Mark Spector specifically because of the, I don't want to say right, but the bad blood between Ra and Khonshu. Now, at one point, he becomes the leader of a cult that worship Amun-Ra, which is similar to what we see Hawk's character doing in the trailer. Now, the Sun King, he's a more recent villain. He was actually created in 2017 by writer Max Bemis and artist Jason Burrows. So there's not a lot of backstory on him, but I could totally see them going with the Sun King. Marvel doesn't like to use code names if they can get away with it. They like to dance around it. So they don't want to call him the Sun King or stuff like that often. So they would want a normal name to go by. So calling him Arthur Harrow makes a lot of sense in that sense. So yeah, I don't think we're going to get the Arthur Harrow from the comics. I think we're going to get Patient 86, aka the Sun King. Now, piecing together the rest of the trailer with what we know, there's a character named Layla from the phone that calls him Mark. Now, there's only one confirmed female in the cast, and that's May Kalamwe, who a lot of people kind of expect her to be playing Marlene Alarun. Mark Spector saved her in his origin, and she became his longtime girlfriend. She's a regular in the character, so I could see them using her as Marlene. Maybe Layla is a renamed version of Marlene. maybe instead of calling her Marlene, he calls her Layla. I don't see that being the short version of it, but we'll have to see if the Layla from the phone is May and if it's Marlene, how that all connects. Adrian says, I can see him as a Sun King. Oh, and apparently a Moon Knight actor just passed away. Yeah, we started the show talking about Gaspard Ulliel. I don't know what's going to affect anything. And I was just about to get to that, Adrian. You're right there with me. The only other actor to be in the series so far mentioned is Gaspard Ulliel, who many suspect is Anton Mogart. Now, I will put on a side here real quick. You have a French actor in a cast where the character usually runs around with a guy named Jean-Paul Frenchy Ducamp. So it wouldn't strike me as odd if Ulliel plays Frenchy instead. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And we're going to get to Steve, but the fact that the Stephen Grant character isn't the rich guy that Stephen Grant is in the comics, having Frenchie and Marlene around may not work as well. So we'll have to see how they do with that. If he is Anton Mogart, as expected, then we'll take a quick look at the character. Now, he was created by Doug Mensch and Bill Sienkiewicz in 1981. He was an art and jewelry thief that always committed his crimes exactly at midnight. Hence, he took the name Midnight Man. So that's his persona. And it's just, his costume is like an all black bodysuit and cape. Why a jewel thief would want a cape, I don't know. He was already rich, living in a posh mansion in New Jersey. Makes you wonder how rich he is if he's living in New Jersey. But he did the crimes just to kind of do them. He wanted to own the items. So this famous painting, he wanted to own it. He didn't care about the money. He just wanted the possessions. Now, one night during a crime, he's confronted by Moon Knight and is knocked into a river where they expect he died, but he didn't. He floats downstream and ends up in a drainage viaduct where there happens to be toxic waste, and it melts his face. A little bit of a Joker thing going on there, but it leaves him deformed, and it takes him a couple days to kind of get his bearings again and get out of the sewers. And by the time he gets out and gets back to his mansion, he discovers that his identity as the Midnight Man was already revealed, and all of his prized possessions have been taken by the police. Let's see, Adrian says, you have to go skin tight or you're not an effective jewel thief. Yeah. All right. But the cape, again, I got the costume, not the cape. It's New Jersey. Do you really have to tell us there was toxic waste there? Fair point. George Carlin used to do a great joke. He says, kiss her where it smells. Take her to New Jersey. Now, so after losing all this stuff and being deformed by this, he blames Moon Knight for everything. Well, he ends up vowing vengeance and kind of goes insane. He no longer collects jewels and paintings. He's now collecting trash and acting like they're treasures and living in the sewers. And he ends up teaming up with Bushman at one point to go after Moon Knight together. Bushman, of course, being the mercenary that Spectre was working for in the beginning and who pops up as a bad guy a lot. Now, Mogart would eventually discover that he's dying of cancer. He finds his estranged son, Jeff Wild, and he teaches him all he knows and then tries to challenge Moon Knight. So he teaches his son everything. He tells him, don't be a bad guy, though. I'm teaching you how to rob and how to steal, but don't be a bad guy. He then Mogart decides he's going to go one last battle with Moon Knight, and in the battle, he apparently dies in the process. His son, Jeff, decides to take up the alias of Midnight, not Midnight Man, just Midnight, and he tries to become Moon Knight's sidekick, But he ends up becoming a villain anyway. Now, it's hard to tell from the trailer how a character like Midnight Man would fit into the series, which leaves me a little bit skeptical that that's who he's playing. But that's been the word since he was originally cast. So, I don't know. I'm really kind of curious how that's going to work out. But, all right. So, Marvel released an official synopsis for the series. And let's see what we can glean from it. It says, the series follows Stephen Grant, a mild-mannered gift shop employee who becomes plagued with blackouts and memories of another life. Stephen discovers he has dissociative identity disorder and shares a body with mercenary Mark Spector. As Stephen/Mark's enemies converge upon them, they must navigate their complex identities while thrust into a deadly mystery among the powerful gods of Egypt. Now, there had been a previous synopsis that talks about him being pulled into a war between the gods. So the gods are going to play a part of this, but how much, we'll have to see. Now, my instincts tell me that this is a bit of a bait and switch. That the synopsis focuses on Stephen Grant, like I've been saying earlier, and I think that's where the show will begin, but I think that Mark Spector's persona will become the real star, or at least co-star of the series. It also explains why Isaac is affecting that almost Dickensian accent. Now, if he does that as Stephen Grant, then leaves his regular voice for another persona like Spector or and he's probably going to do a completely different one for Jake Lockley if he does Lockley. Now, I expect the writers are using Grant as kind of the entry point for the audience. It's a rough story if you tell it in sequential order. You pretty much have to make Mark Spector this bad guy mercenary who flips the switch and saves Marlene, and you go down that path. Or you take somebody who you feel sorry for, this guy who can't sleep, he can't control what's going on, so the audience gets attached to him, and then suddenly, but that's not real. The real character is Mark Spector or another persona, and then Moon Knight. So I think that's what they're doing here. I think they're specifically doing a bait and switch so that fans can get attached to Stephen Grant and then continue to be attached to Mark Spector, where Spector is the harder one to sell, especially in a 6-episode miniseries. So that's my thoughts on Moon Knight, the trailer. I think overall, the trailer is really good. It's really well put together. There's, the music works really well. The scenes we get are really good. We don't get much action. We do get a little bit of a chase and stuff like that, but I would like to have seen a little more of Moon Knight in action. Maybe a second trailer, since it is not till March 30th that it debuts. But also, for all the people who looked at the box behind him when Stephen Grant wakes up with the gun in his hand, he's driving a truck, and there's a box behind him that says Von D. It's not Von Doom. It's not an Easter egg for Victor Von Doom. It's the candy company or whatever it is that he's driving. It's Von something or other, but it's not Doom. It's another German word. I'd have to look it back up again. But it's not a Victor Von Doom Easter egg, so don't get your hopes up there. Half-Life 3 confirmed. Nice. So that's the Moon Knight series. I am really looking forward to it. I'm a big fan of Moon Knight, always have been. Love Bill Sienkiewicz's work on the character. Really liked when they did the Egyptian stuff. He's always been a character that I've enjoyed. The new current series by Jed MacKay, that's a lot of fun too. Jason Burrows and Max Bemis hit it out of the park with their run. There's some great Moon Knight stuff out there. If you want to go back and pick it up, I highly recommend most of his runs. I mean, off the top of my head, I can't think of stay away from that one. No, Moon Knight's just a great character. He's been misused sometimes outside of his comics, but his books are always really well. Yeah, Adrian says, I can't wait for the day they confirm Doom will all go ballistic. Doom, the Fantastic Four, what mutants will be getting in the MCU, those are all going to be break the internet days when they finally announce them, especially if they do something like, oh, John Krasinski is going to be Reed Richards. Yeah. Let's see. JD says, fun fact, for a long time, I thought the artist's name was Bilson Kevich. I thought his last name was Sienkiewicz for a long time because of other pronunciations of Polish last names I've seen, but it's Sienkiewicz. So, all right, guys, let's wrap that up here. Stick around for Rex and John with Comics Collectibles starting just after this. I will be back tomorrow to talk about Book of Boba Fett episode 4, which dropped this morning. So we'll talk about that tomorrow, have a spoiler conversation. And hey, please keep in mind the Karma Kickstarter going on right now. You can scroll up in the chat to find the link. We got about 2 weeks left on the Kickstarter. I'd really love if you guys would take a look, see if it's something you're interested, something for a guest. But thank you guys. Have a great day. Lefty, sorry you missed it, but yep, replay will be available pretty shortly. Hope you enjoy it. Good night, everybody. See you tomorrow.